And we are live again. Here we go. Okay, so it looks like the audio is working now. And yeah, that's exciting. Okay, so thank you for joining the replay. This is the second time that we've tried this particular stream. The first time the audio wasn't working, and so I think I fixed that. And so here we go. So the whole reason why this live stream is so funny is because this is a test of the system. So this is the first time I'm live streaming to YouTube, and just making sure that all the bells and whistles are working and all the connections have been made. So thank you for joining us on the replay for that, and if you're on the live stream, thank you. This is also a huge kind of thank you to everybody who supported me through 2018, and an announcement of the things that are coming in 2019. So I apologize if I keep looking over here. This is where my control panel is for the screens and the audio and stuff. And obviously I wasn't paying enough attention to it last time around because the audio wasn't working. Hopefully it is now. Give me a thumbs up. Right. So the announcements for this year. First one is thank you. Happy New Year to everybody. I apologize that January 7th is the day we're getting started here. I have 2 young kids, as many of you know. They don't start school until today, so it was kind of priorities, picking those little munchkins and making sure that they kind of moved on to school before I was able to dedicate time and get behind the camera here. But the big news for content is that in 2019 we have some big changes in the content schedule and the style of content that's coming your way, and I just wanted to let you guys know about that. I was talking about kind of like a brief history of my content creation, and I don't know, maybe it's a good thing that the audio wasn't working. But long story short, I started once I knew that I was going to be releasing from the military. I got involved in creating a podcast called theaveragefather.com, which was really documenting my journey as becoming a brand new dad. And I wanted to learn as much as I could to be the best father I could be. And so I used the podcast as a way to be able to interview folks, subject matter experts, and so on, to be able to get all that information and then, of course, pass it on, share it on to the audience. That was a surprisingly successful podcast in the sense that the way I measure success in that podcast. First time I'd ever done anything like that, and the audience was several thousand strong. So that is pretty good. Certainly not millions, otherwise I'd still be doing the podcast, I suppose. But as I approached my date of release, which was in December of 2016, I was very much aware that I wanted to start creating doing the same thing that I did with the podcast, but with regards to video. And to be able to help fellow vets do or go through transition and be successful on the other end. And being mindful that myself, I needed to be able to learn a whole bunch of new things to be able to go through that journey myself. And just as I'd learned things with The Average Father, I was going to use this as a platform to be able to do that with Getting to Hired. So in 2018, I started putting out content. And the first episode was with Dwayne Cormier from Canada Company at the time. He's since left the Canada Company. But that particular interview was talking about the Pathfinder program, how it was being shut down. Pathfinder program being a program from Canada Company that helped military members translate their military skills into kind of civilian lingo or terminology, and find the area where you could be successful in your civilian life. That program got shut down. Lots of changes still coming with regards to Veteran Affairs Canada and the support that they offer us veterans in Canada. But that was part of that was the beginning stages of a lot of the big changes that were coming. So since then, spoken to university professors, mental health experts, industry leaders to be able to learn more information and be able to share that with you as far as different ways to be successful on the other end of this transition train. Funny, I was thinking train because one of the last interviews I did was with Rory Thompson over at CP Rail. And I was really struck by when I met Rory virtually and had that interview, I was really struck by his role and the effort that CP is making in that he is an ambassador, a liaison officer, so to speak, to be able to take military members, help you translate a lot of your skills into terminology and identify ways in which you will be of value to CP, and then he helps you kind of do this the handover to the hiring manager to be able to identify where this member, the veteran, would be useful or be to best effect at CP Rail. It's a phenomenal program. He talked about the culture in that interview. He talked about the culture that CP Rail has in the organization to be able to support veterans, and I was really impressed by the work that CP is doing, and strongly encourage you all to check that out. The interview is on this channel, so you can check out the playlist down below for that interview. And if you're watching this on LinkedIn, then just head over to, you can find it in my profile, but you can also head over to the YouTube channel at Getting the Number 2 Hired, and you can find that in the playlist. Let me have a quick swig of coffee. So, the new content coming forward this year in 2019. So, the journey to be able to get to the point where I could create content for you in 2018 was interesting because I went to this this conference called Vid Summit, and as I look over here and set it up, so Vid Summit here in this picture you can see three folks key to Vid Summit. Daryl Eves is the large gentleman on the right, Sean Duras in the hat, and then Gary Vaynerchuk in the middle. And this is kind of like an image from the 2018 announcement that they did, as you can see. But I went to Vid Summit in 2017 and 2018. Gary Vaynerchuk was a keynote speaker on both those years. First year, I think, was 2017. And in 2017, I was really struck by not only the impact of video, the ability to communicate, really get across ideas, and the engagement that you can get with an audience. And you know, to know that you are, or in my case, me, providing value to your community, and you can really get a good feedback or get a good channel of feedback with the video platforms that exist. For example, YouTube, now LinkedIn, and Facebook. Those were the three big ones in that particular year, and it was inspiring that year. I met some fantastic people, and got a fire burning inside me to be able to create content for you. And then, of course, in the shortly after Christmas, in February, I started releasing content again with those interviews and be able to pass on information. Now, since the launch of the show, Getting to Hired, there's been kind of like an up and down with regards to the tempo of content as it comes out. Bunch of reasons for that, experimenting with the vlog style versus this kind of streaming style. Also, just with regards to some other things going on in my life. And then I went back again in 2018, this year, to Vid Summit. And I was struck again by the people that were there. I saw some people that I'd met this year. One of the interviews I'd had was with Vets to PM and the founder, Eric Wright. I saw Eric at Vid Summit. That was the result of a conversation I'd had with him while I went to go do his first boot camp here in Canada. And it was so interesting to see the impact that I had on him and that he was continuing to have on our community. It was amazing. And just fantastic. So coming into 2019 now, I'd like to try and change up the format a bit to try and offer you, the audience, as many different ways or kind of styles of content, and try to find the one that works best for you. and maybe it's slightly different audiences, or like slightly different viewers, as far as how you like to watch your programming. So, for example, I'm a big fan of a show called Because Science. And Because Science is, it started off on Nerdist. I don't know if any of you folks know Nerdist, but Because Science started its own YouTube channel in 2018. And Kyle, its host, is this very engaging host, and he presents information in an engaging, exciting way. They have a combination of pre-recorded content, sit down talking to the camera content like this, and then live stream content as well. And that's a model I think I'd like to try and replicate as much as I can, or start to evolve to the point where we can provide that for you. So what I propose is this. Coming into January of 2019, I'm going to start creating content consistently every Wednesday for you. I'm going to try and play with the timing a little bit as far as when it gets released during the course of the day, just because with the technology and stuff, there's better days or better times during the day to release it, depending on when you want to watch it. And if I release it at the wrong time, then it may never actually show up in your feed. So I'm going to play around with that a little bit, again, learning as I go, and try and get that content out for you, again, every Wednesday. And then every Friday, I'd like to do kind of like a live stream chit-chat. If you're viewing this and you're not from the Canadian military, depending on the tempo of operations, especially if you're in the Navy alongside or not sailing, then it was not infrequent during my time in the Navy for sliders, is the term, to be used on Friday. Now that just being it was kind of like a down tempo time to allow for like rest and recuperation after kind of giving it your all for the week, and it allowed you to do the social and the networking piece that is so critical within the military. You all know that your ability to be able to execute certain things on short notice depends on who you know and what they can do. As far as picking up the phone and making a phone call, sending an email to somebody, and being able to like know exactly who to speak to get this certain thing done. Of course, it's not just the military that this works in this way, but if when it comes to government bureaucracies of any type, who you know is really important. So the sliders allowed you to be able to do that. In the sense you could be able to socialize and interact with folks from different ships, different units, and really get to know folks. So I'd like to do sliders every Friday. And that being that I will produce a live stream. I'll start off with half an hour. And the idea being that I'll create, whether it's through the comments on YouTube or we'll try and find different kind of like avenues for you able to input questions. There's a Twitter account for getting to hired. Obviously, there's Facebook as well, and YouTube. The software that I use to be able to bring this to you today is called vMix, and there's a feature in there that allows you to be able to use different social channels and be able to see it coming up. I don't know how to use it quite yet, but I'm going to start playing with it and try to get that up and running for this Friday, so that I can to be working with that for you, so you can get that input to me as we go. So to recap, regular content every Wednesday, sliders every Friday, live stream, and in the kind of the spirit of the Because Science content, they produce kind of like an entertainment or informative piece. Then they have a video that is reactions to or comments to whatever the video was, and then the live stream at the end where they kind of go back and explore some other things or other topics that might relate to that original video earlier in the week, and then any other questions that come up during the live stream. So I thought that was a good format, and without having the wealth of input to be able to do the feedback show, I'm going to start with the Wednesday content and live stream sliders on Friday. If the sliders or if the live stream becomes popular and you enjoy that and you want that and you want more of it, I can extend it, or I can create a pre-recorded show where I'm taking in your comments that you've made on the videos as they come out, and I can create content in relation to that. Kind of like the feedback show that they do on Because Science. So it's really whatever you want, and I want to be able to give you the best information and access to that information that works for you. So just tell me what works for you. So in that regard, when it comes to the live stream, due to a tech issue, when it comes to this stuff, the question is, going to the wrong side here, the question is, on the live stream, do you want that on YouTube or do you want that on Facebook? The problem with Facebook is that with the software that I use, Facebook will not allow me to concurrently live stream to Facebook and YouTube or any other platforms at the same time. Facebook is the only platform that does that. So I can live stream to YouTube and Periscope for Twitter. I could live stream to Twitch at the same time. I can go to multiple kind of outlets in that regard. But Facebook, no. Facebook only wants you to do it to Facebook, and that's the only way you can do it. There are ways to get around that, but I don't have the gear to be able to pull that off. So it's really a choice between YouTube or Facebook. Now, you're going to see this, most likely, you're going to see this content on YouTube. So you're probably going to say YouTube. But really, what works for you? If you're watching this on LinkedIn, unfortunately, LinkedIn doesn't have an option to be able to do that. So the question is, if you're watching this on another platform, do you want to watch it on YouTube? Or do you want to watch it on Facebook? What's the platform that you use most? If you're a Facebook user, and that's kind of like where you spend most of your social media time, on your device, then great, that's fantastic. I can do it on Facebook. But if I do it on Facebook, I can't do it on YouTube. I can post the recording after the fact up on YouTube, but yeah, it's just a matter of making a choice. So put your comments down below as to which one you like. The recording of this is going to go up on Facebook as well, and of course on YouTube. So put your comments in the description below, and I'll tally the comments and see where the best response is. If folks want to watch this on YouTube, that's where it is. If we want to watch it on Facebook, that's where it'll be. Excuse me. So we'll just kind of figure out what works in that regard and go from there. As a little bit of a preview as to what's coming up on Wednesday content. One of the things coming into 2019 as part of your transition and to be successful in civilian in your civilian career is, of course, networking, but also being able to use the tools that that will bring you best success. And the most important tool in the beginning of your transition is going to be LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is not necessarily intuitive in the sense of understanding how things work. There's lots of tutorials out there, and you can certainly look those up. I'm going to be releasing a series of tutorials starting with the basics and then go into an intermediate level and then advanced level as far as understanding the key kind of important points, strategies, and techniques that you can then use to be successful on LinkedIn. Like I say, there's a lot to know about LinkedIn if you really want to dive into it. The basics will be top 3 key things that you need to get dialed in on your profile to make it look professional. Intermediate, we'll talk about the different ways to be able to interact with content and people on LinkedIn. And then in the advanced, or kind of third step, we're going to talk about ways to be able to really leverage or use the technology or the platform to best effect. It's going to be interesting to see how that content comes out and gets received, because a lot of the tactics that I'll be talking about are tactics I'm using, tactics that I've used to actually quite, I think, great effect on LinkedIn. And it's interesting to know kind of what works, and you want to learn, you want to learn from success stories. What constitutes a success story? I started off LinkedIn, I think, with single-digit connections, like 1 or 2. Just because, again, I had made a LinkedIn profile, but I hadn't done anything with it. I didn't have a picture up. I didn't have any really amplifying information. And there was a lot of, gaps on my LinkedIn profile. It was terrible. And I had very few, not quite zero, but very few connections on LinkedIn. Once I got out and once I realized that LinkedIn was going to be an important thing, and I started to understand the importance of social networking on these kinds of platforms, which I did my master's thesis on, and the importance for military veterans in transition, then I started really digging in deep onto it. And I didn't start doing that until 2018. And over the course of a year, and I've been very selective as far as the people I connect with, but over the course of 2018, I have gone over, so in LinkedIn, you can only have, it only lists as many as 500 connections that you have, and then after you get 500, it goes 500 plus. So I surpassed the 500 plus mark in the summer after starting really doing LinkedIn late spring, and then have just been kind of rocketing forward since then. The way for you to be able to make those connections and the importance, and I'll discuss some of the reasons why that's important. Like why is LinkedIn important other than it just being a social media platform? Why is LinkedIn important? Why do you need to leverage it? Why is it important to have a profile up there that speaks to what you are, what you're doing, where you want to go professionally? Why is that important at all? And so I'll talk about some of those key points and the things you need to think about above and beyond like the actual tactics of deploying a picture and a description and just basic job data as far as where you've been, what you did, and how what kind of words to use and things like that. Well, I'll give you the tactical data. I'll also give you the why as to why those things are important and why you as a veteran need to engage in something like LinkedIn where you've never used it probably before in your life. Why should you start now? I'll tell you why. So that's coming up in the LinkedIn Basics, Intermediate, and Advanced videos. And if that information is of like if you are really enjoying that, you find that useful, but you want more detail, then let me know in the comments as we come out with that, and I'll create more detailed content for you about LinkedIn. So, dear, I've been going for 30 minutes already, and I think I covered everything that I need to talk about. If there is anything that you want to know about, questions you want to ask, subjects you want me to cover on Getting to Hired, then please add them in the comments, DM me or message me over Twitter, or reach out to me on Facebook, on the Getting to Hired, at Getting to Hired on Facebook, and connect with me that way. And we can be able to start dialing in on the subjects that really matter to you, the things that are going to bring you best results, the concerns that you're worried about, and we can address those right away so that you can have maximum effectiveness and, of course, greatest success here in 2019. So thank you very much for kind of being part of my 80% solution here as far as the live stream goes. Really appreciate you guys sticking with me. I will be coming out with content later this week, so keep an eye out for that. And Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks. Bye for now.